Okay, hello and welcome to the 2021 Yachting Cup, San Diego Yacht Club premier event. Tonight, we're just going to be previewing the event here, looking at a few things with the weather forecast, a few things on the race course. We have myself, Patrick Murray, Brian Janney, and Eric Doyle all here on the webinar. So thank you for joining us. We're looking forward to getting out on the water and going racing. So as we do get into this here, just want to mention real quick, we are still kind of going through this as a what I'm going to call a bit of a hybrid regatta with the COVID protocols. So please abide by any of the county protocols, social distance. We are going to be doing some of the stuff in person with the skippers meeting and the awards, but please, do your best to keep social distance, wear your masks, and we're super excited. We just found out through a little history lesson that this is the 49th running of the Yachting Cup. So we're super excited about that. It makes for a nice one with the 50th next year coming. So with that, we're excited to go buoy racing here. And so let's get into the forecast as the first one. I think we have a couple things here. Brian, give us a rundown of what we're looking at here.
These were some forecasts from around 3 o'clock today. This is Saturday. One on the left is 11 a.m. and you can see it's about 8 to 10, which is still pretty great for 11. Then the bigger picture here is at 3 p.m. and you can see it's filled in nicely. Pretty normal day, looking like 12 to 13. And then on Sunday, a little bit different, more southerly direction. You can see going from south north. By 11, it's already at about 10 knots. And by the 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock time frame, we're starting to see 12, 14. Could be a little bit more exciting on Sunday.
Nice, beautiful. So keep that in mind. And, we all know to watch for where the wind is starting in the day and how it starts filling in, whether it comes in from the south or if it just comes straight in from the west or a bit more northwest. So that's a big part of this, obviously, and looking at it. So I think we're going to head over to Eric Doyle here, who has been spending a lot of time out there with the Etchells class and sailing out on what we call the Coronado roads. And Eric, if you can give us a little bit of insight on what you are looking at when you see, this breeze filling in to start thinking about your tactics for the day.
Yeah, hey guys, how you doing? Everybody out there? It's going to come to the Yachting Cup this weekend. Like Patrick said, we've been out there a bit lately, doing some training in the Etchells and some one design weekends, racing the Etchells. Really good. Had some stellar days, which we've enjoyed. Had a few not so stellar, but looking at the forecast that Brian just pulled up, it looks like Saturday's very, very typical day. Sunday, even a little bit more wind, and I'm surprised that it's staying that far left for such a long time. I'm glad we saw that. I don't often pull it up when I'm in San Diego because I think, I've been there so many times. But basically there's 2 or 3 prevailing scenarios that we all know. There's the Catalina eddy, which forces the wind to be
Oh, the Catalina eddy got Eric. Eric, are we live? Let's see if we can get Eric back here.
We can jump forward and then come back to him.
Yeah, let's see if we can come back to that one here because I think that's a pretty important one for everybody to get into now.
Oh, he's back.
Are we back?
Patrick. We got you guys.
Okay, we're live. We got Doyle. ED is back live.
Sorry about that.
Color.
It just
That's
be my internet
good.
connection. But I'm definitely going to look at the surface chart to see if the cat.
All right. Well, I think we're having a little bit of struggle here with Eric's internet connection, and let's see if we can get him back online. One thing that, from a personal note of being out on the roads quite a bit recently, and we've been seeing a fair bit, is really a lot higher wind speed than predicted. And we've been seeing a lot of thermal action out in in the last month or two, I've had 3 or 4 times where we've been out there, and the forecast is in the kind of typical 8 to 10 range, and then all of a sudden there's a nice heating effect and a localized effect that really shoots the wind speed up. We had one sail testing recently with a bunch of juniors on board, and we were actually not able to get our kite up and down because it was pretty windy. So keep an eye on when the wind first fills in, whether or not that thermal is really pumping through, and if the wind speed is going a lot higher than forecast, which a lot of these forecasts just don't get that little localized thermal. So we've been seeing it, and keep an eye on it, and we'll see if we can get Eric back for the left, right, center here.
You guys got me now?
Gotcha.
Got you now.
All right.
Don't say Catalina Eddie. It seems to freeze every time.
Seems to freeze, huh? All right, I won't say that. But we all have I think everybody's done a lot of sailing in San Diego, and we know generally when the westerly fills in, as the day goes on, the breeze tends to trend to the right. But lately, there's been a lot of left out there, and my biggest feeling is first of all that in San Diego the puffs come from straight up wind, so it's very important to start at the favored end of the line, because then you're ahead of crosswind, and it really doesn't matter which way the wind shifts. If you're in front, we all know, we've talked about ladder rungs and when we're closer upwind. If you're closer upwind and you get the shift first, or more importantly the puff first, you're going to gain. So very happy to start on the left if that's quite, if the left end of the line is quite favored, and to get to the fresh breeze first and get into that, and whatever tack we need to be on, we look at it if we need to tack or not. Another important thing is how long the race course is, and where the weather mark is. If we're further down the roads and the weather mark is quite far out there, there is a good possibility that you could get out into the southbound current. And last weekend we had almost a full moon, and there was a lot of current out there. We were tucked under the point a little bit more, but if you get further out, you will get into that southbound current. You will get a lee bow effect if the breeze is more to the right, and that's very important. If we're in a closer course further up towards Point Loma, generally the boat closest to the point gets more breeze. So that's something to think about. If there's outbound current during the day, more to the right, you're probably going to get out of the currents a bit more. Now I'm always a little bit suspect when I see a forecast like this, because at some point it's going to go to the right, or they're going to fight each other. There's going to be a northwesterly, which is coming from the east side of Point Loma, or there's the typical westerly sea breeze, which is coming from the other side of Point Loma, from the shore side. So it's very important. I always look up wind and try and figure out if the wind is fighting back and forth like that, which wind the weather mark is in. If it's in the left wind, well, you probably got to approach from the left. If it's in the right wind and there's less current, there's a pretty good chance you're going to approach from the right. So, without making it too complicated, those are kind of the things that I look for. I want to start at the favored end, so I get the puffs first. I look where the weather mark is. I want to make sure I'm getting that if it's way to the left and where it's a long beat, and we're going to get maybe 2 miles or something, and we're going to get out past the point, into that pressure, into that current, into that apparent wind lift, then I'm not afraid of the port tack ley line. If we're tucked a little more into the point, and the breeze is going westerly, and there's a lot of outgoing current, then we'll tend to favor the right a little bit more. A bit of it, we're racing PHRF this weekend. That's great for the fast boat in the class. If you're the slower boat or smaller boat, you might have to take a little bit with a grain of salt, because you're going to have to look for clear air most of the time. But don't be afraid especially if it does stay left like this all day, that there's more pressure on the left, and a lot of guys who maybe they're not watching this webinar, they're not thinking, they're just going to go right, so you're going to get some clear air on the left. So especially, that forecast right there tells I'm going to look very strongly at going left, especially if the pin is favored, and get those early, especially early in the day when it's building, tends to be big puffs left out there. And you're happy getting into them, getting on that port tack, being the weather boat. Last Saturday, we raced Etchells. We did 4 races on Saturday. If you had started at the pin and been the left boat, all 4 starts, you would have been first at the weather mark every time. It didn't stay that way the whole race. You know, you had to play the shifts on the right and get out of the current. And later in the day, it did track around to the right. But like I said, we start at the favorite end, we get ahead of crosswind, and we get into the breeze. And I think you're going to be successful that way.
Nice. That's some good insight right there. And, you know, especially if you're thinking along the lines like Eric is in the one design mode when you're out sailing in these classes, I think it's really important to think like you're not giving up an inch like he would be in the Etchells or the Starboat when everybody's going, you know, basically the exact same speed. So that's great stuff, Eric. And one other thing I was just thinking about with this is that how many times we've been out there and we see the ley lines stacking up and you're, you know, kind of far out on the right and that current starts coming into play and you're sailing along and you know, you're just kind of not really laying and you're sailing a little high and slow because you think you're laying, but then in the end, there's actually a lot of current out at that weather mark. So you got to be careful to not get yourself into a slow mode thinking you're laying. And then all of a sudden you've sailed half to 3/4 of what would have been your ley line in a super slow mode, rather than just putting the bow down, sail the numbers, sail the you know, the pace of the boat. And if it means you're going to have to get back on port tack to get up to the ley line, that's going to be far better than pinching and going slow the whole time thinking you're making it. And then in the end, you're probably going to have to tack anyway. So that's something to keep in mind as you get up to the top mark. So let's see. And don't hit the cruise ship.
Stay away from the cruise ship.
Yeah. I know Jeff Johnson, the regatta director, was hating that part last year. So, all right. So just onto a few things that was pretty interesting last year in 2020 when I was off the boat, which I'm actually going to be again this year, just kind of running the regatta as the regatta chair. I noticed quite a few things, and we haven't been buoy racing as much recently. So we did see quite a few things that were trends. Not on the line at the start. So, you know, here the picture looks like everybody's pretty well lined up. Give yourself a chance, be on the line with pace at the start. It's real easy to be pretty far back, and it was amazing how far back the boats were at the start. At the weather mark, we saw a lot of boats setting the kite too early, and then the kite doesn't want to fill and you're fighting it. It might even wrap on you because the apparent wind is still forward. So one of my tricks with that one is, you know, wait until the apparent wind is behind the beam, because otherwise you're just going to blow the kite back into the rigging. And if you can do it right and kind of, you know, sail low while you're carrying your speed from what you had upwind and sail nice and low at that point and get the kite set without a lot of pressure and then come up into it, it makes for a much better set than fighting the apparent wind. And then, you know, especially if we get the pressure that's forecasted on Sunday, just make a nice clean approach at the leeward mark rounding, get the kite in, and make sure that you're setting up to round the mark and be on the wind at the leeward mark. It's real easy to kind of compound a few errors, and then you're spinning, you know, multiple boat lengths past the leeward mark, and you'll leave Eric Doyle plenty of room to poke his bow inside you at the leeward mark, and you're going,
oh, I'll be in there, man.
There's
totally
Eric.
Be in there.
Totally. So those are just a few things to keep thinking about. So Eric, Brian, talk to us about the Beneteau 36-7.
Yeah, this year there's a lot of them signed up, and it's probably because the North American Championships are here next year. Or I'm sorry, this October, this year. Here's your class splits for the one design. You can see a good chunk of 36-7s, 105s, and then the Beneteau 40.7s.
Nice.
And handicap, got 4 classes. A, B, C, and D, ranging from 50 footers or 60 footers down to 30 footer Hobie 33s.
And one other thing to note here is in that PHRFC, we do have a little bit of a group, a subgroup in there with the ORC. They've kind of arranged with our buddy Dobbs Davis from the East Coast to get their certificates in what we would call a 30-foot sport boat group. So we'll be, it's a bit of a provisional group. We're just going to look and see how it goes. But the idea there is to help promote those 30-foot sport boats to go out racing and take a look at that rule and see how it's working. So we appreciate what ORC has done with the ratings for those guys to use that as a bit of a subgroup. So let's see, we're going to see Brian out on the Pyewacket. Eric's going to be out on the Far 40, the Dark Star. And I'll be perusing on the powerboat. So that's how we have in the class breaks. And yeah, so we've got overnight sail repair, standard stuff. It looks like Saturday is not going to be that windy, but we've got Pike Harris here, myself, or Brian or Eric. I'm sure we can help coordinate getting your sails fixed overnight, get them back for you for the next morning to go racing. And yeah, we just really looking forward to get back out on the water and getting out for the 49th running of the San Diego Yacht Club Yachting Cup. So appreciate all of you guys logging on and looking forward to a great weekend of racing. Let's hope this breeze comes up like it's forecast. And like I said, don't be surprised if it's windier than forecast, and keep that in mind because we definitely have been seeing more pressure than on the forecast as of recently. So if you guys have any comments, questions, please feel free, put them in there, and we'll see if we can answer any questions. So let's open it up.
Oh, there is one for Eric. Emphasize the importance of
Here from Mary Hardy. The perfect world, you'd win the favorite pin at the start. If things don't go as hoped, what is the lesser of two evils? Clean air, full speed, the middle of the line, or 5 seconds late start at the favorite end? I would say, and I kind of try to touch on this a little bit because we're PHRF, we're kind of different boats. You might be in a smaller boat and the big boat's going to win the pin. I would say be on the line with clear air at full speed in the middle of the line. Don't start 5 seconds late at the favorite end and be in someone's dirt. Pick it up. If there's going to be a giant crowd at the leeward end, there's only 1 or 2 boats that's going to come out of there. So pick a hole a little bit further up and start at full speed. That'll help a lot more. One new message, or it depends.
All right.
Pen and toe. Perfect.
All right.
Okay.
All right, guys. Well, we appreciate it. Thanks everybody for logging on. We're looking forward to having you. We have like I said, a little bit of a hybrid event. We're going to have some music and some drinks on Saturday. So let's, keep it cool and make it so that we can continue to have nice events going forward and respect the COVID protocols as they're running. It's obviously lifting as we speak, but at the same time, we're going to kind of manage that side of it, but have a lot more life than we did last year out on the event. So looking forward to that, and we can't wait to see you on the water, and let's go racing.